Welcome back to another Nook story time. This is going to be a different story time, unlike one I've ever given before. This is a story time that you voted for. You wanted to hear the story of me versus the Arabs. And in order to tell this story, I must first do it in my Wakandan accent, as this is Wakanda America versus Iraq. As you can see, I'm wearing my lion because I am king of jungle. Back then, when I was a little cub trying to find his way in the jungle, when I was little Scar, not Mufasa, we don't do that punk shit. We do Scar. Back when I was Scar and I was a villain and I was an antagonizer, I came across deadly prey that tried to get me. Let me take you back in order to tell this story. And remember, this story is for entertainment purposes only. Do not cancel me. I have cubs to feed. Back in the day. I want to say this is around '02. This was right after 9/11. A little boy, me, lived on this tiny little street behind plantation. See, that's where you started off wrong. Why am I behind a plantation house? But that's where I lived at the time. I lived on Hankston Street behind the Kent House Plantation. If you're not familiar with the Kent House Plantation, do your research. It was a plantation for niggas. Not good. So, back then, around '02, this is right after 9/11. So, there was this Arab family that lived right next door to me. We were in duplexes. They lived right next door. I remember the kids very vividly. I remember all of their names. Mohammed. He had to have been pretty much my age. I was around 8 at the time, so he was 8 as well. Little sister, Mona, she had to be around 6. Little hairy thing. And then little brother had to be around 4. They were all about 2 years apart. His name was Jade. So there it was, Muhammad, Mona, and Jade, the neighborhood Arab kids that lived next door to the Wakandan American. So we were pretty cordial up until a certain point. One day, my parents got me a gift. They got me a present, a scooter, an electric scooter. Now, back then, kids wouldn't understand that the electric scooter was a big thing to have, right? And it was green, it was big. I could not hold it up. I was trying to learn how to ride. I could not learn how to ride. But I had a electric scooter that my parents gifted me, the little cub, the little lion. So I took my scooter out one day to try to go learn how to ride so I can eventually hunt one day as a hunter. And Muhammad, he wanted to ride my scooter. Now, I don't know about the Arabian culture, but in the Wakandan black culture, when your parents say, do not let anyone ride your scooter, guess what? You do not let anyone ride your scooter. So I went outside to ride my scooter, and Muhammad asked to ride my scooter, and I told him no. I stood my ground. I stood on business before business was being stood on. Now, apparently, he did not take too kindly to my rejection of his request, and the attitude shifted. And I'll give them this: they ride as a family. They ride as a pack. So Mona and Muhammad decided they were going to Mona and Jade decided they were going to back up big brother Muhammad. So what happened was I was riding my scooter down the street away from the house, and they decided that they were not going to let me get past them. They were not going to let me get back inside my house. They decided to build an Arabian wall in the middle of the street. Now, to my knowledge, I didn't know what that was supposed to do, because is this supposed to be some kind of scaretastic? I am a warrior. You cannot use scaretastic like building a wall in front of the street, in front of my house. But it was effective, right? Because I could not get past. I could not get past. For one, it was one thing to get myself past them to get to my door. It was another thing to try to get the heavy scooter past them as well. That was the challenge. The scooter was the challenge. So what ended up happening was I devised a plan to get by them. But before I could execute that plan, a car pulled up in the driveway. And out of the car comes two more Arabian boys. Now, these boys were bigger. They had to have been like 10 or 11. They were definitely a couple of years older. And Muhammad said whatever he said. I don't speak that language, but he said whatever he said to them, and they came over in the middle of the street, and they stood in the middle of the street with them. So now it's 5 of them in the middle of the street building a wall. Now, I had not accounted for the other 2 joining the fight. I only accounted for Muhammad because I wasn't afraid of Mona. I wasn't going to hit the girl, but I wasn't scared of her. MJ was a little snotty-nosed baby. He was no threat. But Muhammad was bigger than me. Same age, but bigger than me. I was prepared to take him on one-on-one. Or even 1-on-3 if I had to, but I was not prepared for 1-on-5. I had not learned to fight yet. I was still in a smack-a-bitch era, where you smack a bitch and you run. Now, I could have did that to Muhammad, but I don't know if I could have did that to the other 2. So they built a wall in the middle of the street. Now I'm trying to understand, how am I going to get past the Arabian wall? Now, I am good at football. So I decided that I was going to use my agile and quickness to get past them. So I hit them with the They didn't budge. And I hit them with the tried to go a little quicker. They did not budge. I tried to hit them with the spin move. They did not budge. They stood on business. They were not going to let me get to my house. So what I had to do was, I had to lay the scooter, because that, like I said, that was the obstacle, trying to get the scooter past these people. I had to lay the scooter further down the street, right? And I was going to ask my mother for forgiveness later. I was prepared to leave the scooter in the middle of the street down the road to get to the house safely. Now, when I put the scooter down, I expected them to take advantage of the opportunity. But this is how I know at this point in time, it was no longer about the scooter. It was about respect. They wanted to instill fear in the young lion, the young cub. They wanted to let me know it wasn't about the scooter. It was about disrespecting them. They felt disrespected, and they wanted to teach the young cub a lesson. So, this is where the villain in me had to come out, because they were not going to move at all. My football moves was not going to work. So what I had to do was, I had to put a crack in the wall. I had to get them to charge me so I could evade them, get around them to get to my door. So what could I say to them to get them riled up? What could I say to them to get them to want to move? There is one girl amongst the group. So I directed my spiel towards her. I said, Mona, you know what they say, and this is when this phrase became popular. Mona, you know once you go black, you will never go back. And when I said this is when they started talking their language. I'm gonna. Now to me, that meant get that nigga. And they charged at me. So when they charged at me, I had to hit my Barry Sanders. You ever seen the movie Dodgeball? Dodge, duck, dip, dive, dodge. I know y'all recognize this dance move. I created it. So I'm ducking, I'm diving, I'm dodging, I'm ducking, I'm diving, I'm dipping, I'm dodging. They can't touch me, but I'm dancing so much, I'm dancing in circles. I'm not making no progress towards my door. And after a few seconds of dancing on these holes, I get gassed. I get tired. I'm breathing heavy. I'm bent over. No, you know what. So I had to take a time out. I said, time out. I said, time out. I had to recover. I had to recuperate. Breathe. Breathe. Now what do I do? My plan did not work. But I had to fight for my country. I was prepared to die for my country that day. I said to myself, I said, self, you're going to have to fight your way through this wall. You're going to have to smack up. You were prepared to smack one bitch. You're going to have to smack 5 bitches now. So I said, screw it. Now, they didn't know what I was planning to do. So I politely walked up to them. I put my hands up as if the police were pointing guns at me. I said, I concede. But when I got in front of Muhammad, you know what I did? You know what I did? You want to know what I did? When I got in front of Muhammad, I said, Muhammad, I'm sorry. He looked at his, I assume, cousins. He smiled. I hated that smile. So when he did that, I wanted to knock that smile off his face. So you know what I did? After Muhammad got through looking at his cousins, looking at his brother and sister, he looked at me. I say, I smacked the shit out of Muhammad. And then the cousins pounced on me. They jumped me. They jumped me. Now I know you're asking, where are my brothers? My brothers were no longer with us. They moved out the house. It was just me. One nigga fighting for his life in his country behind the plantation house. So they were whooping my arse. Okay? I'll never forget it. They were whooping my arse. They stopped. They took a breather. I got up. I'm woozy. They stomped a mud hole in my black ass. I'm woozy. I say, is that all you got? I am king. I am lion. I can do this all day. So you know what they did? They pushed me on my arse. I fell back on my butt. I still feel the bruises to this day. And they started speaking their language. What? And when they went to go raise the fist again, because they was about to continue the ass whooping, their parents came out. They yelled from the house down the street where we were. They all turned around. They walked away. I stood up. I said, yeah, you better run, because I was just about to get off in your ass. They looked back. They started coming back towards me. I run. And then they left. They got in the car. They had to go. I'm all the way down on the next street. I peeked around the corner just to make sure they was completely gone. I went to go grab my scooter. I got my scooter. And I rode my scooter back to my house. I stood tall. I lost that fight. But I won that war. It took 5 of them to take me down. And they still couldn't finish the job because I'm still standing. That little cub became the big lion that you see here today. I could have died that day. They could have beat me into death. But their strength, that heart of the lion, wouldn't allow them to kill me. And I stood tall. What happened after that day? What was the relationship after that day? But what do you think it was? I brought my scooter back out there and I rode that bitch in front of them as to signify you could not kill me. You could not tame the lion. And I believe that I won their respect because they never tried me again. They said it took 5 of them, they couldn't take me down. We might not want to mess with him. This is a story of strength and courage. And smacking bitches when it's time. Thank you for listening to my story. This is America. This is Wakanda forever, America. Never again will they ever touch a hair on the mane of this lion. Rawr. Story time over.